Welcome to Tom Brown's ride at Vidra's Bonzai Braapline, Whiskey Creek on November 7th, 2021. Amongst the many things I didn't know was that we would be starting with the engines off, and I didn't keep the bike warm. You can see the blue high beam light went out, so clearly the ignition switch did turn off. That was a scare because I had to dig into the bike's wiring earlier. The main fuse and fuse box showed some sign of having melted. Fortunately, the contacts and the spare fuse were good, so the bike was easy enough to fix. Me and the panic attack that went with it, a little less so. This is Chris in the red and black. He's a good riding buddy. There's the horn for the next start. The novice advanced riders are now charging at us, and I shouldn't be leaving such a large gap between Chris and I, but I'm a dual sport rider learning to race. And I believe that's the last footage I have of Chris.
Oh, fucking shit, man.
Whoa. This was my first introduction to riders barging in, live and learn. For some reason I wanted the right-hand lane. Might have been the extra little log on the bike on my left. But the right lane was plugged and my transition to the left didn't go so well. Good footage of the chaos that the racetrack can be.
Alright. Let the riding begin. Rocks.
This is Colin in the white shirt with the black sleeves. I was going to try and wrap a story around this video, to try and get a plot going, some suspense, and some challenges overcome. But it wasn't going to fit very well. There were many people involved and many challenges. Most of them really were met and overcome. And that's the last good footage of Colin. I could talk about Gemma's karma bank bouncing a roost request, my wiring trouble, Greg's damaged bike, and I will mention Rob's bike. But I don't have video of any of this stuff. I don't even have video of the last 2/3 of the race. Instead, I'm just going to sit here and talk about the video footage and my thoughts about the race. You probably haven't got anything better to do until Greg Samborski gets his edit finished. So make up your mind. Hit like and subscribe or turn off the computer and go get something useful done.
Doesn't count, bike to install.
Still here? Good, thanks.
I gotta relax. Sit high on the outside. Try not to cut across and run down the inside.
First things first, this is the first time I've raced a motorbike in any organized event, let alone a hare scramble. I've done a lot of off-road riding, but I have avoided racing for a large number of reasons. Cost and fear of injury are two of those, but some things cease being fun if you get too serious about them. Like everything else on the internet, take anything I say here with a healthy degree of skepticism. Feel free to leave comments and or corrections.
Miha! Oh, that's slippery. No need to paddle on the left hand with the boot there. Just put it down and let it slide.
Meet Rob. If you're an older desk jockey that wishes you could ride off-road, you really need to meet Rob. He's usually one of those careful, conservative guys who works for a big corporation, pays his mortgage, drives his kids around. He's no athlete, and he isn't rich. He did ride dirt bikes as a kid, though, unlike me. Anyhow, he's out here having a blast. In fact, he drove me up island and back home. Thanks, Rob.
Outside edge, so you have some room to cut into the corner.
He is another novice and a more cautious one than me. He's afraid he's holding up a faster rider and will pull over as soon as he finds a clear spot. I'll do the same many times in this race, and some of those stops will cost me in both time and energy.
Beep beep!
Whiskey Creek is known for its fast, flowy trails, smooth corners that blend into each other, etc. We had a chunk here where I was moving pretty well, until... No fault to the organizers for this log. We weren't supposed to be on this track. Some earlier rider broke through some tape instead of following a faint trail through the Salal, and everyone else followed down the main track, which brought us here.
I don't believe I got the front of the bike over that. Oh shit, going the wrong way. Before it end up, get off the fucking seat.
Trying to remember to relax while chasing the rabbit ahead of you and staying in front of the imaginary wolf behind you? That's damn hard. Even on a leisurely dirt ride with friends, you can feel the muscles get tired. With a pack of riders around you jockeying for position, it becomes hard to do. And knowing that there are no brakes makes it even more important that you do it. Which makes for a good training tip. Practice riding without brakes. Train for techniques that don't overload muscles. That probably won't be easy, as it suggests either closely matched riding buddies or going solo. Trying to find an appropriate speed is another challenge. Too fast and you make mistakes. It doesn't matter whether you make a technical mistake and drop the bike or go off the edge of the track, or you make a mental mistake and miss a turn or other navigational error. You can lose 15 or 30 seconds in an eye blink, and it will take you several minutes of extra hard riding to try to gain it back. And then guess what's likely to happen while you're riding extra hard? Yes, more mistakes. Back when I was driving a Miata through a sea of cones in a parking lot on weekends, I slowly had it beaten into my head that going a little bit too slow was a lot quicker than going a little bit too fast. The slower driver has time and traction to make corrections and get back on their perfect line. The faster driver is always a little bit out of control and constantly trying to get back to the right line at the right speed. Another benefit of going a little bit slower is that it extends your stamina, which is important for the humans on the course. That said, the faster riders are obviously not human. Either that or they are endurance champions and their technique is so good that they don't tire. Or both. All the fast riders clocked similar times for their laps. They did not slow down. In my division, 4 of the first 9 riders were actually faster on their last lap.
Fuck. This fucking single track's all whipped out. What the hell's the dual track gonna be like? Not the only one. I thought a little speed over that would be a good thing.
Terrain changes. Holy smokes, did the course ever change. This first lap was easy. By the third lap, the entrance to this ramp was a 10-inch deep rut, and the next rut had to have been getting close to foot peg deep. And let's not talk about that grassy starting area. We thought it was a bit ugly at the start, but that was nothing compared to the greasiness on the last lap. I had at least 2 drops there on my last pass, one on that nasty step down, and another on a gentle curve on a gentle slope. But keep in mind, there were 167 bikes that got scores, so more than that started. Run 150 bikes in front of you down a trail and yeah, it's gonna get chewed up. Here's another one of my first lap mistakes. Every time I watch this, I keep telling myself to go right. It never seems to work. I feel bad for the poor buggers that appear to have caught up and followed me.
Fucking way.
I pulled over here to let some bikes by, and the front tire didn't want to climb back onto the track. Hopefully I got some karma out of this because it certainly cost time and energy. Not that 60 seconds here or there would have affected results in my division. I only managed to get the front wheel up on the track by rolling the bike down the hill. Fatigue. So I did consciously try to relax so that my muscles were not fighting each other. But on a nearly 3-hour race, that only delays the inevitable. The muscles are going to cramp. You are going to start losing some fine motor control. For me, that was the clutch hand, and I had to make some temporary changes to rest it. Simply put, I geared down and made more use of the throttle for speed control and flexed and stretched the clutch hand. But there was another part to this picture too. Somewhere along the way I realized the mud on my gloves and grips was making it hard to hold the throttle, and I used my camelback to wash some of the mud away. For me, the next stage after cramps was simply stupid exhaustion, and yes, I literally mean stupid. My slow idle got slower and the bike wouldn't start. It took me quite a while to realize I was running out of gas. And get this, I couldn't figure out how to set the petcock to reserve. Partly that's because I wouldn't have been able to read the petcock writing even with my glasses. I ended up laying the bike on its left side multiple times to get the gas out of the right side fuel tank wing. Flow. This track would really have rewarded someone who knew it and could blend all the corners together. Riding without overdriving your vision so you could stop was limiting. That said, even the berms were getting chewed up and whipped out. Here we get to see the effects of both fatigue and going too fast. A missed turn and a very slow recovery. Bike. So I'm sure you've already noticed from the sound I'm not on a two-stroke, and having a dashboard and speedo says street legal. I'm on a Deere Z400, which at 320 pounds is likely 70 pounds heavier than any other bike in my class.
Okay. Oh, that would have worked a lot better at first. Okay, so I'm clearly trying too hard.
So I'm back to chasing these two again. The rear guy is happy enough to let me by, but I followed his buddy for 19 minutes before getting a pass on a log. That said, going slow for a bit isn't the end of the world. I didn't make any nav errors nor any off-track excursions. And this guy really wasn't any slower than me. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that he was going slow thinking his buddy was behind him. I'm still astounded at how fast the fast riders were. Guys gunning it down a 40-foot slope, down and across a gully. Race logistics. I still don't know how long I had to complete the last lap. I heard what sounded like a gunshot about 10 minutes out from the finish, and I had assumed that was some sort of cutoff. I was pleasantly surprised when a friend showed me the results, which included my last lap. Learning this kind of stuff in advance would be a good thing, like knowing that the race starts with your motor off. I need to wrap this up. I didn't expect to fill most of 15 minutes, but here we are. I wanted to find out how I do racing a DRZ and a hare scramble, and since I might be replacing the DRZ, that meant now was the time to answer the question. I placed 11 out of 18 in senior amateur, and 117 out of 161 finishers. But those are just numbers, and frankly, they're not impressive numbers. I know so few of the other riders that I really don't feel like I learned where I stand. On the other hand, 4 riders in my class beat Devin on his dirt bike, and I know Devin is damn good. I said I'd finish Rob's story. Rob was most of the way through his first lap when he stopped for a rest break and noticed his bike was relieving itself. He'd hit a coolant hose somehow and it developed a leak. With me in senior amateur was Greg at 12, Chris at 16, and Colin at 18. Jammer dropped out in the first kilometer due to an injury. Devin was second in super senior, Taylor was second in veteran amateur. Obviously, a big thank you to the organizers and volunteers, and another to Chris, Colin, and Greg who helped me get to the event. And last but not least, thank you for watching.